One of Magic fans' favorite targets off the board. So, where do the Magic stand ahead of the deadline? Less than a month before the deadline. Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 9th, 2026. My name is Philip Rossman-Ike. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to dive into the big topic in the NBA over the last few days, the trade of Trae Young, why the Magic were never in the running, and the lessons that we can learn about where the Magic stand ahead of the deadline. We'll talk about who's on the block and do a quick standings check as well. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We truly appreciate all of you who are one of our Orlando Magic dailies. That means you listen every day. That means you're listening on the weekends when you do our weekend episodes. That means we're part of your regular podcast rotation. That means we're your first listen of the day. We want to thank you for making the Locked On Magic community such a great community. We also want to thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's today, so check it out. We have been doing this dance for many years. Go into our archives, like search on Google Locked On Magic Trae Young. It has been a favorite pastime of everybody around the league. It's been a favorite pastime of Magic fans to figure out, how are we going to get Trae Young on the Orlando Magic? They need shooting. They need a point guard. Just give them Trae Young. It's something that I feel like I have talked about sort of ad nauseum and laid out the reasons why it was never going to work. Maybe it would have worked back in 2018 on draft night. Magic needed a star. There was a clear star, someone you could build around. Maybe with the ceiling, but someone that you could actually start winning games with. And perhaps that's what the Washington Wizards are thinking. I like the deal for the Wizards. Go check out Locked On Wizards. They had a ton of cap room to spend. Getting a central star that everyone can kind of orbit around and learn from is going to speed that team's development up, help them just raise their floor more than anything else. But at the end of the day, I don't think Trae Young can help you win a championship. I don't think Trae Young is a championship level primary star. And ultimately, the big question that any team that's serious was asking themselves is, can we bring Trae Young in and can he fit into what we're already doing? And look, Trae's probably a lot better than everyone gives him credit for. He's averaging about 19 points per game this year. Still a dangerous off-the-dribble three-point shooter. Still averaging 8-9 assists per game. He is a handful. But as we've seen when you get into deeper playoff series, like teams hunt him out, they target him, you got to hide him. You got to be able to cover for his defense. And I guess one of the reasons why everyone thought the Magic would be such a good fit for him is that the Magic have the capability to hide him. The Magic have the personnel. They have the players to help hide him. But that's neither here nor there at this point, because he's off the board. And thankfully he's off the board. Thankfully, honestly, I hesitated to even comment on this much further because nobody mentioned it. Nobody jumped in my mention to say, why didn't the Magic go get Trae Young? So I want to congratulate all of you for freeing me from that ridiculousness. The only reason I'm doing something like this is for the traffic, is for the hits. Trae Young was not a fit for the Orlando Magic. The price was not particularly high. CJ McCollum was essentially salary ballast. The Hawks were desperate to get rid of him. They traded him at the bottom of his market. And so in that regards, like, yeah, you get an all-star level player for cheap, you'll take it. But there's a lot of other things to consider. First, the Magic's payroll situation, which we'll get to here in a minute, what the Magic's actual goals at the deadline are. Second is the whole notion of, well, we're still figuring out if Paolo and Franz can share the ball and be a functioning offense. What happens if you add another high usage player? Like, honestly, like, the reason why the Magic gave up so much for Desmond Bane was he was purely additive. And I've had this conversation with a few people, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to test this theory pretty soon. But I think one of the problems that the Magic have had with Desmond Bane, and I think he's largely played well since the slow start. I think one of the problems the Magic have had with Desmond Bane is they've had to put him on the ball too much, or they're running an offense that has him on the ball making decisions too much. And it's not that he can't do it. He can get assists, but he's better as a trailer, as a catch and shoot option, as an off the ball movement option, as a floor spacer to give other guys room. Now, because Paolo was out, because Franz was out, because Suggs is out, they've needed Bane to be a little bit more of a playmaker than I think they wanted him to. And again, like, we could dive into the whole Mosley thing again. And yeah, Mosley's got to find ways to get him shots. And maybe this offense isn't designed to do that. And that's a fair criticism. And that's a fair thing to assess at the end of the season. But we got to ask ourselves then, what do the Magic need? What if they're not going for the big splashy move? They're just not. The Magic's main goal at this trade deadline is to get under the tax. And I know I've said this and I've laid this out before on the show. When people ask me what the Magic could do at the deadline, I was like, they're going to do something, because there is zero reason for them to stand pat. They literally cannot. As I've explained, and I'll do brief refresher here. If you are over the tax for 3 out of any 4 years, you pay a repeater tax. And there is zero reason for the Magic to pay the repeater tax before they have to. They know they're going to be over the first apron next year. There's no avoiding that. So they know they're paying the tax next year, and they're planning on paying the tax probably for the next 4 or 5 years while they're hoping to contend. And so why pay the tax now and cost yourselves more real money? It's not cap money, it's real money. Cost yourself more money now. So the Magic are going to do something. The question is, can they shed salary while also adding something to the roster? And this is where I've been sort of racking my brain a little bit. And I'd be curious what you think, and I'll pin this as a comment at the top, ask this question directly. Other than more shooting, which the Magic obviously need, what do the Magic actually need? What should the Magic be seeking? Now, part of me thinks that the Magic should be looking for a two-way players. They need more defenders. Like the defensive struggles, they're not as dire as it feels, but we're just so used to a high level of defense. They feel worse than they are. But I do think the Magic need more plus defenders. But I look at this roster, and again, aside from more consistent shooting, maybe some more size in the backcourt, replacing Tyus Jones. Like, Tyus he's been better. I don't think he's a disaster by any means, but he's going to be tough to play in the playoffs. Like, we all know it. We all see it. We can all feel it. I'm a Tyus supporter, and he ain't it. What do the Magic actually need? And quite frankly, I don't think we can answer that question because of the injuries. Now, we know we're getting Franz Wagner back here very soon. Or we assume we're going to get him back very soon. I don't want to speak out of turn, unlike other people who have spoken out of turn. Jalen Suggs, it doesn't seem like this is a long-term injury. The Magic played with him being doubtful for a little bit. He's out. He's out on Friday. The Magic get 2 practices in Berlin. It would not shock me if there are some returning players in Berlin next Thursday. Another week, couple of practices, some time to rest, some time to test some guys. Certainly the power of being in Berlin, I'm sure the Magic are going to be under a little bit of pressure from the players, from the league, from whoever, to play Mo and Franz Wagner in Berlin. And if they're in any way close, they're going to have 2 practices to figure out how close they are. If Franz and Mo don't come back on Thursday, frankly, I would be a little surprised because the window is open for them to really test some things. But we'll see. Again, I can't speak to how close they are. We only have vague reports and reports that jump the gun a little bit to tell us how close they are. But, you look at what the Magic need. It's like, okay, they need more bench scoring. I would agree with that. They need more bench scoring. Well, getting Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner back pushes Anthony Black back to the bench. And now you got Anthony Black coming off the bench. Mo Wagner coming back, as Jamal Mosley likes to joke, he falls out of bed with 10 points. Now he's back. Now you got another offensive weapon. So it's really, really hard for me to say what the Magic should be targeting other than just generically like, yeah, get more shooting. Get a little bit more defense on the wings. Like, I pitched this in the summer when the Magic had Phoenix's draft pick. I think it's been pitched to me a few times already. I don't know how up for Phoenix would be, but like Royce O'Neal would be a really good fit. Royce O'Neal would be a fantastic fit for this team. Low cost, easy slide into the roster. Is going to defend, going to make threes, not going to get in the way of anything. You could if Phoenix is up for it, you could shave some salary. So I don't have a list of targets for you today. I did the list of targets a week back. Wasn't super enamored with the list I came up with. And I've just learned I'm never going to guess what Jeff Weltman's looking at. Like, I'm just not. So let's look at the other side of the equation today. Who are actually on the trade block for the Orlando Magic? We're going to discuss what the Magic need to do to get under the tax and who they'll be shopping and hopefully getting some nibbles on coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. You can open the app and find something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. And getting it all done right before the games start and right before the weekend starts is the perfect way to energize your Friday night. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That is NBA Happy Hour. Only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. It is the next level for the Locked On Magic community. You could join our members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server. That means you're included in a group chat just for listeners of this show. I'm posting my 3 thoughts after every quarter of every game, except for a few coming up here. But most games, I'll be hanging out in there. Send me a chat. Send me what you're seeing. Ask me what I'm seeing. That's the place to be, and I will provide exclusive thoughts outside of my public thread as well on the Discord server. So that's a great place to continue to connect to me and to the wider Locked On community. Plus, you get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Magic compatible with every other major podcast app. Go to lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com, or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. As I mentioned, the Orlando Magic have a big goal. And if you go to like all the websites that are beginning to preview the NBA trade deadline, which by the way, the NBA trade deadline is February 5th. So we are officially 4 weeks away. 4 weeks away from the trade deadline. So a lot can happen in 4 weeks. Magic don't play as many games because they have pretty much a week off for this Europe trip coming up. But a lot's going to happen here. A lot's going to happen here, and the Magic do need to do something. As I mentioned, the Orlando Magic are a little less than $5.6 million over the luxury tax line. Again, there is no reason for the Magic to pay the tax this year. Zero. And if the Magic fail to get under the tax, that means one of two things. Jeff Weltman's really down bad. Like, just the roster is just kind of in a bad state. Couldn't find anything to shed some salary. That's still, and the Magic are trying to thread a fine needle. They're trying to shed salary while still improving or maintaining this roster. So, I pitched like a Jonathan Isaac for Colin Sexton deal. Like, I think that makes Charlotte a little bit too much better, but you shave some salary, you get an expiring contract, you get that salary slot that you want to use on Anthony Black. Not my favorite deal, but it works. You could find something. There is something out there to shave $5 million. Again, there's something out there. And then you get an open, and then you still have your open roster spot, which the Magic can officially use as of today, by the way. You have that open roster spot to go sign someone on the buyout market, on the mercenary market, as I like to say it, as I like to call it. So there's opportunity here. So the Magic have to shave $5.6 million. What does that actually look like? Well, the going thought has been, the Magic are just going to dump Jet Howard. And doing that, because they didn't pick up his rookie extension, his rookie option, he's shown some flashes this year. There's someone that's going to take a second draft chance on him. That will not do it. Jet Howard's making $5.5 million. You're about $50,000 short of the tax by just dumping Jet Howard. So you're going to need to trade something a little bit more substantial. Now, I've talked about Jonathan Isaac. I think a lot of Magic fans are at least moderately ready to move on from Jonathan Isaac. Look, J.I. is still an incredibly impactful defender. He's not at the level that he was even 2 years ago. Still seems like he's kind of getting himself in shape after picking up and then losing a lot of that weight from last year. He's not all the way to what he was beforehand, before all these injuries happened. Isaac, though, is still $15 million. And look, he's going to hit 52 games. It looks like he's going to hit that. So that 14 and a half will get guaranteed next year. It's a lot of money for someone to acquire him at this point. It's a lot of money. But having said that, Isaac's still a very impactful player. And if there's a team that is just so desperate for defense, those back end years, he's got 3 years left after this one at 14 and a half, 15. Those back end years make it really hard to trade him. But he's so talented and still pretty good at what he does that you might be able to entice someone to take him, especially if you're maybe taking back. Again, the Magic aren't looking for dead salary, so that makes it harder. But especially if you're willing to take back or attach second round picks. And the Magic have plenty of second round picks. They got a lot of second round picks to spend. But the Magic have a guy in Noah Penda they really like, who's really stepped up and does not all the things Isaac does, but plays a similar role. You're gonna try and free up some room for him moving forward. I think obviously like Tyus Jones, $7 million expiring contract. The Magic are going to try and get off. I think the Magic will try to get off of that. And I do think, like, if there is a need the Magic should look to address, go find a veteran point guard who can defend a little bit. That's kind of why I'm not so crazy. That's why I'm at least a little bit intrigued with the Colin Sexton idea. Sexton has not been a great defender for the last few years, but he hasn't been in good defensive environments. I think he has the tools to be a good defender. I think he showed that in college that he could be a good defender, but that was a long time ago. It intrigues me. It is a 1-year deal. So, I think Sexton makes more than Jones. So it would have to be like an Isaac for Sexton, or maybe even a Goga for Sexton, or Goga and Jet for Sexton to make something like that work. I don't have those numbers in front of me. But Tyus Jones at $7 million, that would be a straight salary dump. And finding someone who could help fill in that point guard void would then become a pretty big deal. Now, maybe you think Anthony Black can fill that, and Anthony Black's look better at that role. And so, again, you're hedging bets a little bit. But again, like, this is just numbers. Like what the Magic do at the deadline is going to be purely about numbers. You're going to hate me on trade deadline day because I'm going to say like the first thing I'm going to talk about is, okay, the salary the Magic are sending out is Jonathan Isaac's 15. They're bringing back 11. They're bringing back $10 million. They did what they had to do. They got under the tax. Mission accomplished. Now let's talk about what that means on the court. And again, the Magic are threading this very, very fine needle of not just of sending out money and taking back less money, but still getting some value in return. I think the more likely trade candidate as we get closer to the deadline, the more likely trade candidate is Goga Bitadze. And look, Goga has given the Magic discounts. He loves in Orlando. I hate being disloyal, but this is the cold and cruel business that we're in. Assuming Mo Wagner comes back, and again, I think a year, it's either today, yesterday, or the day before was exactly 1 year since Mo Wagner had his surgery. So we are in Mo Wagner territory. We are in Mo Wagner return territory right now. Could happen at any time. Won't happen Friday, but I think Thursday. I think Thursday is going to be the day for both Mo and Franz. I think there's no way they're missing the Berlin game if they can play. And if the Magic, if they're any way close, they're going to be really pushing play. And again, the Magic have 2 practices in Berlin. It's an NBA event. They are required to practice those days so they can be available to the media. I'm sure the big question everyone in Germany is going to be asking is when those 2 guys are going to come back. You get 2 practices, likely with contact. It's set up for them to return for Berlin. Just reading the tea leaves. I'm not reporting anything. I'm not saying anything for certain, but it feels set up for it. If Mo Wagner comes back and is in any way productive, that frees you to let Goga go. And the center market's going to be weird. I think a lot of teams do need centers, but there's also a lot of teams that are willing to trade centers. And so again, Orlando's main goal is to cut salary. So if you're trading out $8 million, that means to satisfy the need to get under the tax, you can only take back 3. So that makes it a little trickier. And not even 3. So it makes it a little trickier. So the Magic have Goga and Jet. That's $13.8 million. That means you could take back 8. A little bit better. A little bit of a better player coming back that way. But I think Goga has the most value on the market. He is a backup quality center. Like he should be getting minutes and he's been up and down this year. I'm not saying he's a high level backup center, but he's been up and down this year. He still struggles a little bit with fouling. He gets a little overeager chasing blocks, like little inconsistent in important areas, but generally good energy, generally good defense, generally good shot blocking and rim protection. Generally will clean up around the basket if you give him the ball. Goga is a good player. And so I do think he has value around the league. It's just, again, about whether the Magic can find a way to shed enough salary to get under the tax. That is the only goal at the deadline. And so I guess the good news then is between Isaac, Goga, and Tyus Jones, the Magic have guys that they should be willing to part with, should be willing to shop. And, again, even combining 2 of them should be able to get some quality player back. Again, with maybe some enticements, maybe some other things, but should be able to put themselves in a position to accomplish all of their goals. But we'll see. We got 4 weeks to figure this out. And of course, a lot of it starts with just getting healthy. So with that in mind, let's do a standings check because Friday's game could have big ramifications. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. As we roll into the new year, there is a lot of pressure to chase a new you. But sometimes it isn't about reinventing yourself. It's about feeling a little less weighed down. Therapy can help you understand what's been holding you back by giving you an outside perspective on your emotions, motivations, and relationships. And that's why BetterHelp can be such a helpful place to start. Their therapists are fully licensed in the U.S. and work under a strict code of conduct. They help BetterHelp helps match you with therapists based on your needs and preferences, so you're not doing all the legwork on your own. And it's so easy to switch to another therapist if the one you're with is not working out. BetterHelp has served more than 5 million people with more than 30,000 therapists. And live sessions average a 4.9 out of 5 rating across more than 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with qualified therapists. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We have been doing this fairly regularly, but I will caution it is still a little early in the season to be obsessed with the standings. I do check it every so often just to kind of see where the Magic are at, but essentially since December, the Magic have been treading water. They're 7-7 in their last 14 games. They're 500 since Franz Wagner's injury. They've alternated wins and losses for the last 14 games. So Friday would be a loss if that pattern continues. At some point, the Magic will win consecutive games, but the Magic haven't won consecutive games since the Detroit and Chicago win in early December 1st to be exact. And the Magic haven't lost consecutive games since the New York Knicks game in the NBA Cup semifinal, as well as the Denver Nuggets loss to start that West Coast road trip. I want to dive into this and investigate this a little bit further, but all 4 teams that went to Vegas have essentially kind of hit a little rut. The Knicks have too. The Spurs are a little bit up and down, even though they beat the Thunder a few times. Thunder have kind of hit a rough patch. As I've said a million times, where the Magic are at is not a reason to panic. There's still plenty of time. We still got half a season left. We expect this team to get healthy and kind of build some momentum again. They've always finished the season strong. I have a lot of faith that the Magic maybe won't achieve all the goals we had at the beginning of the season, and we got to reckon and ask why. Why do we hit these ruts? Why are these things happening? But I've also been a big believer is like, let's judge the whole picture. Let's not get so stuck in the weeds. But having said that, here we are. The Magic sit in 6th in the Eastern Conference at 21-17. They are a half game behind the Philadelphia 76ers for 5th. They are 2 games behind the Toronto Raptors for 4th. They are 3 games behind the Boston Celtics for 3rd. And why not 3.5 games behind the New York Knicks for 2nd? All within striking distance if the Magic are able to put together a little run, which again, they haven't in a while. Orlando is above the red line, or above the blue line, I should say, in 6th. But they are a half game ahead of the Miami Heat and a half game ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers for 7th and 8th. They are 3.5 games clear of the Atlanta Hawks and Chicago Bulls for 9th and 10th. At this juncture, unless the Magic have an absolute collapse, and I think we can all agree the Magic are not playing well right now, and they are still scratching out wins, barring an absolute collapse, the Magic are going to be a top 8 team. Honestly, barring an absolute collapse, knowing they're about to get healthy or they're about to be healthy again here, the Magic are going to finish in the top 6. I am still very confident they're going to finish in the top 4. Cleveland's probably going to make a push. I think Toronto will fade a little bit. Boston feels like they're real, so maybe 3 is a little bit out of the picture now, but I do think Orlando's going to make a big push here at some point once they're healthy. It's just, we know when this team is healthy, they're very, very good. And again, that's why it's so hard to say, well, the Magic need X, Y, and Z. We don't know. We honestly don't know what they need because we haven't seen them play enough. And again, this is what happened at last year's trade deadline. We all thought the Magic were getting Jalen Suggs back soon. I remember sitting here saying like, oh, the Magic's big trade deadline acquisition is getting Jalen Suggs back. And then that ended up not happening. And I think that affected what the Magic were going to do at the deadline. The Magic know they're getting Franz Wagner back here soon. They know they're getting Jalen Suggs back here soon. These are not long-term injuries that reshape the calculus. These are injuries that have forced the Magic to hold the boat steady. And again, they're not playing well. They need to play better. But by record, they are holding the boat steady. All of their goals are still completely in front of them. But these are also games they can't get back. And that is important to remember too. The Magic cannot get these games back. And so a big piece of this puzzle is you got to win these really important games. The Magic and Sixers, their season series is done after Friday's game. Friday's game is huge. It's a 1-1 season series. And the winner of Friday's game owns that tiebreaker. Again, the Magic cannot get these games back. They've dropped games they shouldn't have dropped. They're treading water in a part of the schedule we expected them to make a push. And again, maybe they still will. But these are games the Magic have to win and could have massive effects when we get to April. Home court advantage could easily be on the line Friday night at the Kia Center. And obviously, you're shorthanded. Joel Embiid's questionable. You're like, who knows? But these games do matter. There's a trickle-down effect. And if you look at the teams the Magic are competing against, they're 2-2 with the Knicks. Tied that season series. That's going to come down to conference record. New York's 18-11 in the conference. Orlando's 15-13. There's still a lot of work to do there. Boston Celtics. Boston is a 2-1 lead over Orlando. They finished the season in Boston. Last game of the season is in Boston. Could that be an important game? We won't know. But Orlando dropping that game at home that they probably shouldn't have dropped. And again, Boston's a good team, but dropping that game at home and essentially sitting everybody in that blowout loss in Boston, that's going to have consequences. The Magic's 1 point loss to Toronto. That is their only loss. That is their only game against Toronto so far. Orlando only plays Toronto 3 times. So now you got to win those next 2 games against Toronto. Those 2 games are going to be huge. The next one, I believe, is January 30th, end of the month. Philadelphia, again, you're 1-1 with them. You win Friday, you win that season series. Now, Miami, you've won the season series with. You're up 3-0 on them. You played them twice in Miami still, but you've won that season series. So you own that tiebreaker. Because again, the NBA Cup game was an added game. It became a 5th game between the two. Orlando owns that tiebreaker now. Cleveland, you haven't played yet. You played them twice at the end of January. Humongous games. The Magic are better against winning teams this year. Like, by record, they're winning more of those games. This is a better team than it was last year. And they've held the boat steady at this juncture. But it is time to start climbing the standings. We're not there yet. We're going to hit the midpoint of the season after Thursday's game in Berlin. But it is time to start making that move. And you hope that some health will allow the Magic to make that move, because essentially everybody's been treading water. Toronto's 6-4 in their last 10. Philadelphia's 6-4 in their last 10. Orlando's obviously 5-5. Miami's 5-5. Cleveland's 6-4. Nobody that jumble between 8 and 4, really 8 and 5 changes every night. And it is going to be that way until one of these teams goes on like a 5-game win streak. How does Toronto have a 1.5 lead on 5th place Philadelphia? They've won their last 3 games. The Magic win 3 games, get to 24-17. Let's say the Magic win their next 4 games. Beat Philadelphia, beat New Orleans, sweep Memphis, beat Charlotte. That's 5 games. Let's say the Magic win their next 5 games to get to 26-17. That probably gets them to 4th. That's what the Magic need to do, and it's not going to take very much. And so we're just waiting for the Magic to build some momentum. And maybe the game-winning shot on Wednesday will build some momentum, just like the win over Portland did, because Orlando came out the next night after beating Portland and ran the New York Knicks off their own court in a game where Paolo got hurt. Now, they had Franz that game, but you get the point. It's not going to take much for those standings to completely flip, to completely change. But right now, the Magic are just treading water. And if the Magic are treading water, they're going to be bouncing between 6th and 7th for a little while until someone else makes a move. The Magic need to be the one to make the move. And it'll come. There's ups and downs in the season where if this is a down, like seriously, like they made this point on the broadcast, and it's typical kind of Magic positivity on the broadcast, but it is a good point. If this is down, playing 500 ball being down is good. That means you're doing something right. And so the Magic need to catch some rhythm. They need to catch some wins. And look, I'm not sitting here saying they're about to do it. They are scratching out pars right now. They are grinding out pars right now. And it is not pretty. The way the Magic are playing should not make you feel confident. They got a lot of work to do. But it won't take much to put the Magic right where they want to be. And this team is certainly very, very capable of doing a whole lot more. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. With that, you get access to my Discord server. You also get a special an exclusive article and preview of the day ahead in the NBA, Monday through Friday, newsletter format. And your support on that helps me cover this team. I'm planning trips in February. We talked, or in March, excuse me. We talked a little bit about that that closing game against Boston, that Chicago-Boston road trip. I'm not planning to go on that road trip, but if it starts to look important, I'm going to want to go on that road trip, and then I'm going to go on the playoffs. So helping out at the Patreon helps support my coverage of this team. So I want to thank you all for supporting me, supporting the podcast, supporting everything that we do here at Locked On Magic. And thank you all again for your support. If you want to take your Locked On listening to another level too, you can check out the Everydayer Club. Get Locked On Magic ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonmagic.supercast.com to join the club today. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We will be back tomorrow after Friday's game to chat about what the Magic did against the Philadelphia 76ers. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.